Hello, welcome to this Back on Track on Hummingbird, in which we're discussing the final mix, which is just about ready to be mastered. And in this part, I'm talking about the iZotope suite of products, which at the moment just comprises two of them. I've used Nectar on the vocals and Ozone on the master bus. So let's have a look at Nectar first and see what it does. So this has been applied to the main vocal only. It's a suite of products. You can see that there are all sorts of tools being used here. Any with the little orange power button on are in active use. And together they just work magic on the vocal track. You use the vocal assistant to say, make the vocals sound this genre, this style of sound, and Nectar just does its thing. So I've pretty much just left it to it, and this is why. So if I turn the vocal processor off, this is the vocals as they stand at the moment.
In the shadows I linger, so still, so quiet, and as the storm clouds pass, the hummingbird flies under the soft warm summer sun. He skitters and dives,
Pretty outstanding.
and in a golden mist the hummingbird lies,
Just kind of flat and dull in comparison.
lost in the sweetest kiss, I'm frozen in time.
Okay, so very well done, Nectar. That's why I've left it alone, because it clearly is very significantly superior to me. Let's have a look at what it's actually doing. Pick a couple of these phrases.
And as the storm clouds pass, the hummingbird flies
So this is a bit of EQ that it's decided to apply.
under the soft warm summer sun. He skitters and dives,
So there are 4 different points. It's just
and
dropping a
as
little.
the storm clouds pass, the hummingbird flies
A little bit of extra DS. We already have DSer on
under the soft warm
on the vocal track, but it's applied more. So
summer sun. He skitters and dives,
a second
and
EQ
as the
curve.
storm clouds pass, the hummingbird flies
Accentuated the sweet spot, the 1K.
under the soft warm
1.2-ish.
summer sun. He skitters and dives,
Rolling off a lot of the bass and a little bit of attenuation
and
of
as
the
the storm
high end.
clouds pass, the hummingbird flies under the soft warm summer
And then another
sun.
compressor.
He skitters and dives,
2-to-1 ratio.
and as the storm clouds
And then a little
pass,
bit of
the
reverb.
hummingbird flies
Just 8%.
under the soft warm summer sun. He skitters and dives,
It's really quite radical. So, thank you very much, Nectar. That's a magic button. You just basically turn the vocal assistant on, let it listen to the vocals. It sets all of those settings and just says, there you go, it's better now. I think, huh, thanks very much. Obviously, as I get better at the art and really start diving into each of these tools and find out why it's improved and why I wasn't able to get there in the first place, then I'll be able to interact more comprehensively with this suite of products. There are other vocal processors that it hasn't applied. Fine, okay, if you don't need to do it, don't do it. But overall, that's Nectar, and it's pretty amazing. Now then, I did initially apply this to the vocals master bus, and it was too much. when it was adding all that brightness and shimmer to the backing vocals and to the call and response lines, it was making everything sound harsh and too much. So I've actually just taken it completely off that. I really like the sound, the overall sound of the oohs and the ahs as they are, and the backing vocals as well. So having come to the conclusion that what Nectar was doing out of the box was detracting from the backing vocals but enhancing the lead vocals, I've just let it loose on the lead vocals and taken it off the backing vocals, and that sounds like a good day one compromise where I'm not fiddling for the sake of it. I'm not applying effects just because they can be done. I've used my ears and said, this sounds better, that sounds worse, let's do the stuff that sounds good. Makes sense? Okay, so that's the vocals. Now on the main output bus, we have an instance of Ozone. So again, let's switch to a different section of the song. Open Ozone. I'll bypass it and we'll listen to the song without Ozone, and then I'll turn it on.
And in a blur of rainbow tones he skitters and dives.
Just let your ears get used to the sound.
Upon his fragile wings the hummingbird rides.
Okay.
And in our senseless days we'll never know why.
Now it's important to note here, because it's really easy to fall into the trap, well, it's just louder. No, it isn't. The output meter is telling me that there isn't any significant change in the output volume. It just gets better. This might be the single most important plugin I own, and I only bought it last week and I had no idea what it was going to do. But again, this is going through the Master Assistant. In this case, actually, what we're doing is we're generating a set of default master outputs according to a reference track. And the reference track that I've picked is No Ordinary Love by Sade, which is the closest song I can find that sounds like this. And it is quite outstanding. I've tried referencing against different tracks. Tried a Tori Amos track and an Alanis Morissette track, Kate Bush, and they all improved the sound and sounded great. But this No Ordinary Love is an amazing song, and it actually sounds quite similar in many respects sonically to Hummingbird, so I was able to get a really good. So you actually use that reference as part of the package. So when you go into Master Assistant here, you load your reference in, it listens to the song, and it sets your song according to those master settings. And this is what we get. It's just absolutely crazy. So let's have a look at what it's actually doing. So we have an EQ. Let's get it going again.
And in a blur of rainbow tones he skitters and dives.
So at about 3K, it's pulling a little bit of that high mid away, and it's quite heavily accentuating the upper frequencies. That will be where a lot of that sparkle's coming from. Then we have a dynamic EQ. Which, as I understand, is acting like a multi-band compressor. It's basically cutting those sounds out. The more it hears them, the more the sound focuses in that range, it's pulling it down.
Hummingbird rides.
Okay, so there are 4 of those. Then we have this match EQ, which Ozone didn't put on itself. I've added this after watching a couple of videos on Ozone and what it can do. Basically, this is like an infinite point EQ. Really, it's actually applying a pattern, a wave-based pattern to the entire frequency band. So we've got the reference track, which is my track by Sade, and that's in orange. And you make it listen to a little bit of the track, and it comes up with a curve of what that looks like. And then I apply a similar. I let it listen to part of the song that sounds sonically similar to that reference point, and it draws that shape. And then it says, well, how much do you want one to match the other? And so the line that we have drawn here, I think this is the one. The more that you drag the amount curve up, so it's currently 16, it makes it more and more similar to the reference track. I think it started out at 10%, and I've just accentuated it a little bit. So it's bringing my track in line sonically with the master track that I'm trying to get to. So it seems like an easy win. Just make me sound like that, please. Lots of concentrating on just listen to Sade's kick, my kick. How do I make those sound? Go back into my track and try to find out how to make my kick sound like that. That's EQ shaping and compression and how much reverb I'm sending the kick into, and then do the same with the snare sound, and now pick maybe the guitar sound. So each sound, one by one, I've used the reference track to try to bring my sound in line with that, because No Ordinary Love is an amazing song, and if I could sound half as good as that, I would be proud. The next thing I had to do was do some mono checking. So I am advised that I have to take into account what does my song sound like in mono. Well, we have a button just for that. So here's in stereo.
And with a timeless thrill, the hummingbird flies, and in a blur of rainbow tones he skitters and dives. Upon his fragile wings, the hummingbird rides.
It sounds better in stereo. But I don't currently know how to make it sound any better in mono, but it doesn't sound bad. There aren't entire areas of the frequency range just completely missing. I'm not hearing any phase issues or stuff just completely gone. I imagine that's another one of those things that over the course of time I'm just going to get better at finding out how to interpret that information. If I'd pressed that button and it had been an absolute train wreck and the bass had gone, or the backing vocals were just entirely absent, then I would have, do kind of this business and set about fixing it. But I think it's okay. It's good enough. Once again, it's good enough. Should they sound almost identical? I don't know. What am I listening for? I don't know. But it's not a catastrophe. So.
And in our senseless days, we'll never know why.
Yeah, it just sounds wider, as I would expect a stereo image to. Then we have the maximizer. So what this basically does is, after you've done everything else, or this is what I understand this tool to do, please correct me if I'm wrong, but after you've done everything else and you are happy with the song exactly as it sounds and you're good to go, then you turn the learn threshold button on and play your song, and it will set. I won't do it again. I just did.
And as the storm clouds pass, the hummingbird flies.
The more of the song it listens to, the more it will change this threshold. It was at 4.9. So after listening to the entire song, including the solo and all the loud stuff at the end, it set the threshold at minus 4.9. And that's aiming towards a target of minus 14 LUFS. That's an entire video in its own right, and we'll deal with noise one of these days. But that's basically your output target. If you're outputting to streaming services or whatever you plan to do with this sound, that's where you're aiming for. So it's adjusting the final output level to attain that target. It's making sure I never go over a true peak of -1, which means it's never going to clip digitally. Again, that's another thing that we'll discuss another time, but is absolutely critically important. And there's an overall threshold for the entire song that it's going to set its volume to. There are other sliders here. I haven't touched them. I've reached the limit of my ability. I can't process any more information. I could spend a month just learning how to use Ozone. But I think for now, because the song sounds good to me and I want to start getting the world's opinion on what this sounds like, I'm going to burn it to a WAV, upload it to SoundCloud, and that's my day one, first attempt at a final finished version of the song. How much my ears need to improve before I can start using these tools more intelligently, I don't know. The more I listen closely to reference tracks and to try to pick out individual sounds from individual songs, to build myself a suite of reference tracks, I need to do a building blocks on reference tracks. I've discovered how important it is, and it's a topic that we need to cover in some depth. So much to learn. I knew that when I opened the mastering Pandora's box that there was going to be I am at day one, but I've decided that rather than spending 3 months learning all of this stuff and not actually producing any output, I'm going to just burn Hummingbird with essentially the presets that Ozone has given me right out of the box. And then when I come back to it later with more information, I'll have something against which to compare. So there we go. That's Hummingbird done. Get it burned, get it uploaded, move on to a new song, reboot my ears, give my brain a chance to absorb this colossal amount of information that I'm trying to take in at the moment. It's an awful lot. The Ozone on its own is colossal, but there are tools inside iZotope that I haven't even looked at yet. But it's a momentous day. I'm really excited at the prospect of just uploading my first finished piece of music, and even if I come back in future and twiddle again, it's out there. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, hit notifications if you want to get advice when my content comes out. Head over to my website to see and hear the final version of my song, and over onto SoundCloud as well. I'll post all the relevant links below. I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching.